On July 27, 1944, close to Saint-Lagast in Normandy, France, an 88mm projectile tore into the Sherman's armor amid a piercing metallic wail, an event that ought to have meant doom for the entire five-man crew within. A gunner in a Panther from the 2nd SS Panzer Division, Das Reich, observed via his optics, anticipating the standard burst of fire that typically ensued after a direct hit. Objective eliminated. The driver pushed forward 20 meters to gain a superior position against the next vehicle, yet no inferno materialized. Instead, the Sherman's turret swiveled in their direction, its 76mm cannon hunting for retaliation. The German loader, hand extended toward a fresh shell, halted in bewilderment. That U.S. tank was supposed to lie as a smoldering tomb already. All doctrine from manuals, battles spanning Russia to Africa, and available intel affirmed this reality. What the Panther's occupants observed that day marked a pivotal shift in armored combat, one that German troops had entirely overlooked. The M4A376W Sherman they targeted featured a wet-stowage ammo setup, featuring dual-walled compartments loaded with 38 gallons of suppressant fluid to thwart the devastating blasts that German crews had relied upon since 1942. This upgrade, standard in all Shermans built post-January 1944, slashed the fire risk following a breach from 60 to 80% down to merely 10 to 15%. That day across the Norman fields, the 2nd Armored Division pressed forward with 104 such enhanced Shermans. No German intel summary, no update from the Waffen, not even frontline murmurs had alerted tank operators that their key strategy regarding U.S. armor was now perilously outdated. The change stemmed from the ruins of catastrophe. On February 14, 1943, at Kasserine Pass in Tunisia, U.S. tanks smoldered across the valley, M4 Shermans converted to infernos by German 88mm fire. Out of 300 U.S. tanks involved, 183 fell, the majority devoured by ammo blazes that wiped out full crews in moments. The British Operational Research Section recorded that 65% of disabled Shermans ignited fully. U.S. analyses revealed grimmer stats, reaching 80% in certain clashes. The Ordnance Department's Tank Automotive Center scrutinized every wrecked Sherman from North Africa. Their finding was blunt. Ammo propellant, rather than fuel, ignited most blazes. Over 70 rounds housed in exposed racks inside the combat area turned into immediate firebombs upon impact from searing metal shards. The fix arose via progressive engineering. In November 1943, a DuPont chemical specialist at a tank board session proposed encasing ammunition in fluid. Early ideas appeared outlandish, like flooding the whole combat space with water to form submarine-style sections. Yet, refinement yielded sophistication. Dual-walled ammo holders with fluid-filled gaps placed on the hull base, distant from probable strike zones. By December 1943, Press Steel Car Company in Pennsylvania adapted its production facilities. The initial M4A176W emerged from assembly on January 3, 1944. The W label indicated wet, a detail grasped by scant few outside the plants. Trials at Aberdeen Proving Ground confirmed the innovation exceeded hopes. In deliberate simulations, experts blasted captured German 75mm and 88mm rounds at the bins. Unprotected storage exploded in 73% of strikes. Protected storage flared in just 15% of instances. Footage from these trials, kept secret until 1963, captured the stark contrast, unprotected ammo shooting up in fire columns, while protected ones yielded minor smoke wisps, swiftly doused by the dispersing fluid. The upgrade was thorough. Every bin comprised nested dual-walled units for 10 rounds. The inner wall gaps first filled with water, later a water glycol blend, and ultimately a custom mix named Amudamp. The formula proved vital. Plain water iced over in cold. Glycol averted freezing yet spurred rust, whereas Amudamp, ethyl sodium potassium phosphate, addressed both issues while ensuring flame control. The M4A375W held 100 rounds in base storage alongside 4 prepared ones, shielded by 37.1 gallons total. The 76mm models carried 71 rounds with 36.6 gallons of safeguard. The setup increased vehicle mass by 900 pounds, but vastly boosted crew endurance. By April 1944, 130 M4A, 176W Shermans reached England. The 2nd and 3rd Armored Divisions got 52 each, although early rollout faced postponement. Worries over adapting to the fresh 76mm weapon and ammo logistics barred them from D-Day assaults. These upgraded Shermans entered battle first amid Operation Cobra, starting July 25, 1944. Operation Cobra launched at 0938 hours on July 25, 1944, with the most intense tactical air assault ever recorded. As the haze lifted from following the intense aerial assault, U.S. armored forces pushed ahead via the breach near St. Lo. The vanguard consisted of the 2nd and 3rd Armored Divisions, outfitted with the initial Wet-Stowage Sherman variants deployed in European combat. The Panzer Division, crippled by the barrage, placed its remaining Panthers in concealed spots for surprise attacks. Captured German post-battle accounts, seized during the overrun of Panzer headquarters, revealed mounting bewilderment regarding the durability of American tanks. At optimal distances, Panthers managed to pierce Sherman armor effectively. However, numerous struck vehicles kept operating or retreated independently instead of erupting in flames as anticipated. The German operators remained unaware they were facing M4A376W and M4A1 176W Shermans from the 67th and 33rd Armored Regiments among the supposed wrecks. A significant portion of those tanks, deemed knocked out by German spotters, resumed service in under 48 hours following on-site fixes. Vehicles that did ignite had generally sustained impacts in the power plant area. The safeguards for ammunition performed precisely as intended. German fortifications, planned based on expected high U.S. tank attrition, fell short once shielded models entered the fray. These Shermans endured hits at rates beyond predictions. Offensive pushes, predicated on depleted American advances, encountered fiercer resistance than forecasted. The design of this protective feature showcased remarkable ingenuity amid wartime constraints. Every compartment featured meticulously crafted dual-layer holders with 1.5-inch separations between the inner and outer casings. These spaces held roughly 0.5 gallons of fluid for each 10-round section. By Army development timelines, progress was strikingly swift. Early prototypes using plain water, trialed in October 1943, validated the idea yet exposed issues like solidification in low temperatures, degradation of brass casings from rust, and microbial proliferation in still liquid. Incorporating ethylene glycol addressed the icing concern but intensified the erosion problem. The ultimate formula, Amidamp, incorporated ethyl sodium potassium phosphate alongside anti-rust agents and antimicrobial additives. This blend stayed fluid down to 40 degrees MEF, halted rust formation, curbed microbial activity, and enhanced blaze control compared to plain water. Tanks demanded an upfront fill, followed by routine-level inspections via access panels. Per Ordnance Department logs, the setup's performance surpassed initial estimates. Upon penetration by shrapnel, the fluid would surge forth, drenching any vulnerable propellant to stop ignition. Should a portion of the charge ignite anyway, the solution would block propagation to adjacent munitions. This one upgrade shifted many tanks from write-offs to simple repairs. Over at the Kummersdorf test site, German armor experts were scrutinizing U.S. tank samples obtained in Tunisia prior to the advent of Wet-Stowage. Their assessment centered on M4A1 models from the 1st Armored Division, taken at Fayed in February 1943. German engineering summaries exhaustively cataloged Sherman construction details, including plating makeup, motor capabilities, drivetrain specs, and munition arrangements. Advisory dispatches to panzer formations included precise schematics of ammo racks in the sponsons positioned above the tracks, urging strikes there for optimal results. This guidance, disseminated as official protocol across all panzer groups, became routine for German tank operators. Training academies from Putlos to Paderborn instructed trainees to prioritize Sherman sponsons. Fire control charts for anti-tank teams marked those zones in bold red. The The strategy ingrained itself so deeply that even as sponson strikes ceased sparking blazes, operators chalked it up to inaccurate shots. For German troops, the chronology was disastrous. Their exhaustive Sherman study wrapped up right when U.S. plants shifted to upgraded versions. Later intel revisions still cited the prior assessment as authoritative. Frontline observers noting exceptional Sherman toughness had their accounts brushed off as overstatements from battle-weary personnel. The overhaul of American tank manufacturing in early 1944 demonstrated unparalleled industrial synergy in conflict history. At Fisher Tank Arsenal in Grand Blanc, Michigan, the line switched from M4A2 to M4A3 builds, then integrated the upgrade seamlessly without halting output. From February 1944 to March 1945, Fisher churned out 3,071 M4A3 7-infank tanks. Accommodating the under-turret ammo holders required a full hull-bottom overhaul involving fresh stamping molds, adjusted welding fixtures, and revised assembly flows. The half-turret basket, subbing for the complete revolving base to enable hull storage access, necessitated reworking the whole turret rotation system. Fluid conduits, wiring harnesses, and linkage controls all had to be rerouted to skirt the updated ammo spots. Press Steel Car Company in Pennsylvania hit comparable output feats. Launching M4A176W assembly in January 1944, they built 3,426 examples by July 1945. They had to incorporate the ammunition storage into the upgraded 76mm cannon setup, which demanded adjustments to the turret, alternative rounds, and a recalibrated load balance due to its increased size. Come June 1944, U.S. manufacturing plants shifted entirely to outputting the Wet-Stowage models. The switch occurred with such seamless efficiency that Nazi reconnaissance, relying on outdated seized examples from prior years, failed to detect the core upgrade. The bocage landscapes of Normandy unwittingly served as the proving grounds for this enhancement's impact. The close-quarters fighting in that rugged area exposed U.S. vehicles to engagements at distances where Axis weaponry routinely pierced Sherman plating. Remarkably, however, the rate of U.S. tank casualties turned out to be far more salvageable than anticipated. Mechanics from the Third Army's repair units managed to retrieve and fix 67% of disabled Shermans amid Operation Cobra. Among those that dry stowage would have turned into total fire casualties, roughly 70% made it back into action thanks to the bolstered safeguards. This unseen boost to U.S. armored forces threw off Axis strategies across all echelons. Officers on the German side vented their irritation in combat logs over what seemed like endless American tank supplies. While Panthers scored strikes and even breaches, many failed to yield lasting destructions. U.S. recovery teams salvaged vehicles that Axis operators believed obliterated, mended them swiftly, and redeployed them to the front lines. The analytical framework employed by German planners to gauge foe numbers through irreversible ammo blaze losses simply ceased to apply. Leading the charge was Major General Maurice Rose's 3rd Armored Division, deploying about 200 enhanced Shermans. Over a grueling 7-day push, the outfit covered 100 miles, clashed in scores of skirmishes, and kept up its drive even against Axis pushes tailored to wipe out U.S. tanks. The Axis riposte, Operation Ludish, the Mortain counterthrust, unleashed on August 7th with 4 panzer divisions intent on severing American advances. Planners figured U.S. tank groups would be worn down and diminished following the swift surge. Axis spies pegged American armor at just 60% of true figures, overlooking the revived and restored Shermans preserved by the tweak. The 30th Infantry Division's defense at Mortain, backed by armored companies fitted with the upgraded Shermans, demolished the Axis momentum. The 743rd Tank Battalion weathered successive assaults from SS and Wehrmacht panzer elements. Though enduring multiple breaches, the unit held its formation and fighting power intact over the 6-day clash. The September 1944 Battle of Aricourt offered the sharpest historical proof of this shifted dynamic. As the 113th Panzer Brigade struck U.S. lines on September 19th, they banked on catching foes off guard and dismantling American tanks via superior Axis marksmanship. The opening Axis thrust landed plenty of impacts on 4th Armored Division Shermans. Panthers and Panzer IVs claimed several penetrations against U.S. machines at ideal distances, yet the American reaction upended forecasts. Rather than pulling back amid severe attrition, the 4th Armored surged forward with startling vigor. The numbers reveal the crux. During the Aracourt fights, the 4th Armored lost 151 Shermans, but just 41 counted as total losses. The other 110 got patched up and recommissioned, many in under a week. Axis analysts, tallying all 151 as irrecoverable, deemed the 4th Armored unfit for battle. Yet it pressed on with attacks non-stop. General Patton's early doubts regarding 76mm Shermans flipped after Aracourt. The Third Army from then on took delivery solely of 76mm equipped Wet-Stowage types, acknowledging that amplified gunpowder paired with greater endurance yielded unmatched battlefield edge. As fall 1944 wore on, next wave upgraded Shermans hit the field. The M4A3E8 EZ8 drew from combat insights, featuring enhanced suspension, broader tracks for superior traction amid extra mass, and optimized round handling for easier crew handling. These models started arriving at forward positions in October 1944. The heavy assault version, the M4A3E2 Jumbo, built in Wet-Stowage right from production in June 1944. Boasting up to 4 inches of frontal armor and 6 inches on the turret, the Jumbo could take massive hits. Teamed with the ammo shielding, these beasts notched survival figures that left Axis spotters baffled. By November 1944, 1st Army distributed 105 M4A3E2s among multiple tank outfits. 3rd Army mustered 90 Jumbos across 6 battalions. Such vehicles blazed trails into strong points, soaking up barrages that earlier Sherman platoons couldn't survive. Operation Watch on the Rhine, the Axis's final frantic thrust in the West, kicked off December 16, 1944, on faulty assessments of U.S. tank prowess. Axis strategists presumed American tank casualties were expected to mirror those from 1943. The campaign's triumph hinged on swiftly neutralizing U.S. armored forces. German strategists figured that focused armored assaults would dismantle American tank formations bit by bit. Their estimates relied on the classic weaknesses of Sherman tanks. However, when safeguarded, these Shermans endured far better than anticipated. The battle schedule fell apart as a result. SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper's Kampfgruppe, leading the 1st SS Panzer Division's assault, faced this truth close to Stoumont on December 19th. His Panther tank scored multiple breaches against Shermans from the 743rd Tank Battalion at short distances. Nevertheless, U.S. opposition persisted. During after-action questioning, Peiper voiced irritation over American vehicles, pressing on after absorbing strikes that ought to have wiped them out. The 761st Tank Battalion, known as the African American Black Panthers, showcased these benefits across their 183 days of non-stop action encompassing the Ardennes battles. Staff Sergeant Reuben Rivers, who received the Medal of Honor posthumously, illustrated this resilience. His Sherman took 2 straight impacts on November 19th that breached the hull but failed to detonate the ammo. Despite injuries, Rivers kept battling, with his team enduring blows that would have finished them in prior Sherman versions. As 1945 dawned, German troops increasingly seized undamaged Wet-Stowage Shermans. Operation Nordwind led to the grabbing of several M4A375W models from the 43rd Tank Battalion around Hatton. In January, German operators ran these taken machines for days without grasping the role of the fluid-packed ammo bins. The WA-Proof's Tech Intel section had basically shut down by early 1945. The remaining experts concentrated on frantic miracle weapon efforts instead of scrutinizing faux gear. Even if combat units spotted the upgrade's importance, no system was in place to gather and spread that info. The U.S. Army's Ops Research Unit, in their after-war report OROT-117, outlined the shift. Pre-upgrade Shermans caught fire in 60 to 80% of hull-piercing strikes. Wet-Stowage types ignited in just 10 to 15% of instances. This drop boosted U.S. tank prowess in unseen ways. A battalion with 50 Shermans hit 30 times with penetrations would lose 18 to 24 to flames under dry stowage. With Wet-Stowage, merely 3 to 5 would burn, yielding 25 to 27 tanks fixable. The unit stays operational rather than needing full rebuilds. In the European campaign overall, this edge built up tactically. Modest projections indicate the change stopped fires in at least 1,000 vehicles, sparing 5,000 skilled personnel and keeping scores of battalions in the fight. German schemes ignored these facts entirely. All battle plans drew on outdated info about Sherman frailties. This ongoing mistake echoed through countless clashes and fueled Germany's downfall. After-war interviews and writings highlight the intel shortfall. No German record from the conflict era notes awareness of the tweak. Otto Carius, who knocked out more than 150 opposing tanks, detailed Sherman fights in Tigers in the mud, but skipped any odd fire toughness. Ernst Barkmann's tale of his legendary defense omits shock at Sherman's shrugging off hits. Accounts from vet groups add proof. Chronicles of Panzer Lehr, 2nd SS Panzer, and 16th Panzer Division show zero notice of enhanced Sherman durability. These aren't censored official logs, but personal stories shared among peers. The Wet-Stowage intel flop stands as one of the starkest intel collapses in contemporary war. Various issues bred this oversight. German assessments of Sherman tanks used examples taken before the change appeared. When Wet-Stowage Shermans hit the field, German units had turned to defense, curbing chances for organized tech intel. Structural chaos blocked frontline sightings from analysts. German tech intel split among rival outfits with weak data exchange. Shortages sent captured rides straight to use, not study. Mindset elements, like faith in German engineering edge, cut the urge for deep enemy hardware probes. The upgrade's hidden nature was key. It left Shermans looking the same, demanded no fresh maneuvers, and stayed quiet. German spies hunting big shifts overlooked the quiet overhaul inside U.S. tanks. The Wet-Stowage. The narrative imparts lasting insights. Keeping technical knowledge current is essential. Adversaries analyzed in the past might differ sharply from those confronting us now. Advances don't have to be groundbreaking to make a real difference. Incremental refinements addressing targeted issues often outshine sweeping overhauls in impact. For those in military engineering, this upgrade embodies sound principles of innovation. Pinpoint the precise challenge. Craft a workable fix, roll it out in manufacturing. A tweak ready for swift rollout can outpace an ideal fix that demands prolonged creation. For intel agencies, it highlights risks in overlooked assessments. An opponent feature that appears implausible could turn pivotal in conflicts where data serves as firepower. Lapses in reconnaissance can kill just like breakdowns in machinery. The Sherman tank's Wet-Stowage ammo arrangement cut the odds of devastating blazes by 75%, preserving countless Allied troops. But its biggest triumph lay in evading German detection right up to the war's closing chapter in World War II. Starting with its debut in January 1944 and lasting until the conflict's close in May 1945, key U.S. armored campaigns relied heavily on these enhanced Shermans. German troops faced them from Operation Cobra to the Reich's last stand, seizing and using hundreds without grasping the core enhancement. U.S. designers built the setup to protect personnel, not to fool foes. Still, its obscurity to German analysts amplified its value immeasurably. The upgrade affirmed U.S. engineering tenets. Fast-tracked pragmatic fixes surpassed the German chase for flawless technology. Records mark Wet-Stowage as a vital tech leap that aided victory in World War II. More precisely, it deserves recall as the unseen tweak that secured success by exploiting faux obliviousness, as much through American ingenuity as through that ignorance. German tank operators battled an illusion, relying on outdated methods rooted in misguided beliefs, and ultimately fell. This change spared U.S. lives and hastened the war's end by bolstering American tank forces to hasten Germany's collapse. In this concealed edge, echoed in countless engagements, resides one of World War II's most striking yet overlooked tales. A straightforward alteration that reshaped outcomes while staying out of sight from those desperate to detect it.